Hi everyone! So my name is Urban Mystique. You may also know me as Piatti Party Ariel or Ariel. Um, I was asked to create a video on generating a chart for Geomancy or Al Ramal. And I'm going to show you my methods and try to kind of explain as to kind of what you need to know so that way you're not confined by materials whenever you're generating a chart. So I tend to use dice. Well, let's rewind a little bit. What is geomancy or all? Geomancy is basically utilizing elements of the earth, or what's considered the earth, in order to create a divination. Not a divination, to divine, of course, the future or map of the future and the like. So, for example, one of the common ways of doing it is simply creating a chart and randomly drawing dots and counting the dots and creating a chart that way. Or you can use a dice or cards, just about anything you can utilize to create a geomancy reading or a chart to do a reading. The key is the binary. What I mean by that is passive and active. So if you have anything that you can utilize and you can identify two different states for it, then you can pretty much utilize it or use it to make a geomancy chart. So to explain what I mean by that, I'm going to use this dice. I'm going to use the green one. As you know, a D6 dice or a dice like this has 6 sides. And you have 6 numbers. You have even numbers and you have odd numbers. Because there are even numbers and that there are odd numbers, you can utilize this dice to create a geomancy reading. With that being said, let's kind of think about what that means for a minute. With one single dice, I can actually divine a simple yes or no question. So I personally, and I've made a blog on this piece specifically, I've used the odd numbers for yes, the odd numbers for yes, and then the even numbers, like this, for no. So, for example, if I were to roll this dice and ask, will my viewers find this video helpful? And I got an odd answer, so I'm going to show it to you. 5. So that means yes. So with this is a very basic, super basic geomancy reading that you could do at any time. Simple yes or no. Now there are other things, there are times whenever you're looking for something a bit more complicated and you want like a basic map of what the situation is like or what's going on in the situation that you want to, you want more than just a yes or no answer. And that's where charts or all Ramal charts or geomancy charts come into play. So while we have this binary, odd yes, even no, we now also have the elements involved. So with geomancy, you have 4 elements that you're working with. Fire, what's conceived to be fire, air, or what's perceived to be air, water, and then earth. They represent the spirit, or the kind of the energy behind a situation, communication, intellect and thought, emotions, or reflective, like the ability to be emotionally receptive, and then the corporeal side of the matters. So you have 4 elements associated. Now, like I said, if you can identify a binary, you're able to actually do a geomancy reading. A binary means even or odd, active or passive, 1 or 2, anything. So you can literally pick up a set of rocks from the ground and note, gee, do I have 1 rock or 2 rocks in my hand? And that is a divination reading. with geomancy. And that actually is a way that people go about getting readings or making readings. So with that being said, for me, to save time, I use 4 dice to represent the elements. I use the red one to represent the fire. I use the yellow one to represent air. I use the blue one to represent water. And I use the green one to represent earth. And for geomancy, a geomantic chart involves creating a map of 4 figures, and from those 4 figures, I think expanding it into 16 other figures, and then reading it. So that's why I use 4 dice. Otherwise, if I were using 1 dice, if I'm having to make 4 figures, and those are my base figures from which I'm generating everything else, I'd have to roll this 16 times, and that's time consuming. And I know that this is going to sound, I'm talking about it, and it sounds like, gee, this is complicated. It kind of is, but it's kind of not. I will say that those who are familiar with geomancy I found, to also be inclined towards technological reasoning, or it's not even really called technological reasoning. It's like numbers, computers. They're techie type people. They're very earthy type people who tend to lean towards geomancy. That's just been my experience. Businessmen, IT people, farmers. That's been my experience with people utilizing geomancy. So now that I finished talking about kind of what this means, I'm going to first start off with 1 dice and show you exactly. I'm going to roll this 16 times, and I'm also going to have some paper here. So I'm going to make a map to show you what this looks like, and you'll see kind of how things go. I'll first show how to kind of like make 1 figure, and then I'll go and make 4 using all 4 dice. So let's see if I can get this. Yep, I can. Alright, let's see here. Let's see, you're this way, so I'm going to be working like this. So I said that there are 4 elements. There's fire, there's air, there's water, and there's earth. So everything that we make will go in this order. So if I were to, let's ask, how will Thanksgiving go tomorrow? Because tomorrow's Thanksgiving here in the United States. So I'm going to answer this using 1 figure, whereas before I was using asking a yes or no question and getting a binary answer. Now I'm going to actually utilize this dice, roll it 4 times to actually get a figure. What that will do is it'll give me a more complicated and more nuanced answer. So the question that I'm going to ask is, how will Thanksgiving go tomorrow? And I'm going to roll it 4 times. First is a passive air with the number 2. Next is a passive fire with the number 2. Now is a passive air with the number 4. And I'm only writing these numbers down in case for some reason or another you can't actually see the dice. Next, I'm going to roll for the water line. Water, 2. And then, last but not least, earth. I rolled a 6, so passive again. Alright, so this is a basic geomancy figure. And it's the figure populus. I'm going to write that down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Populous. I'm not entirely sure what the Urdu or the Urdu word for it is, but populous is a figure that is stasis, static. It also represents a lot of people. So this means that it may possibly, I doubt it's going to be quiet because we're going to have like 6 people up in this joint. Um, so it's going to be a lot of people there. That's what this means. And that's one figure. If I wanted to read with against the airline, the elemental lines, which I wouldn't necessarily in this case, I would say that for me, I would read this as fire being muted. It means it will not be energetic. It will not be talkative. It will not be emotionally reflective, and it will not be grounded, which that doesn't make sense for the context of the question. Therefore, I'm going to go with the general interpretation for populace, and being there's just going to be a lot of people present. It'll be busy. All right, so now that I've done one figure with 1 dice, I'm going to show you how to do 4 figures with all 4 dice. And I'm going to give a quintessential love question. Does X love me? And I'm just going to go with person X. I'm quite the hated person nowadays, so I would be surprised if there was any X who loved me. But let's see what happens. All right, so here's how I'm going to, I start from here and I move this way. Now, let's see if I can somehow zoom in. I can, excellent. That being said, let's pull this up a little bit. I always start with the fire line. So the fire is odd. I'm going to start with one dot to represent active. Then I'm start with the air line, active. The water line is passive. And the earth line is active. Right, next, here we have an active fire line. Then we have a passive air line, a passive water line, and a passive earth line. Okay, that one landed on 3 on earth, so I'll go a little bit at a time. Even though this is kind of leany, this is clearly like every now and then, because I'm using this kind of dice method and I have no qualms about or no problems with letting the dice fall as they may. Because I'm doing that, this stuff happens all the damn time. So what I do is if I notice that it's like literally can go either way, I will move the object and let the dice fall. In this case, I'm pretty sure it's going to land on 6, so I'm going to stick with 6. So fire line is muted, air line is muted, water line is muted, and then the earth line is active. And it is active on the number 3. All right, one more. Now I have, all of them are odd. Let's see here, do you see the blue? You do not. I'm going to pull this over so you can see. And so, with that being said, these first 4 figures are called the mothers. The mothers are the 4 figures by which your entire chart is made. Now, this, I'll go ahead and tell you what each figure is. This figure is called puer. It means boy or beardless. This one means carcer, which means like trapped. This one is tristitia. I'm not going to write it out, but just know it means sadness. And this one's via, which means the way. Now, alone, it doesn't really function, or it doesn't really say as much. And this is kind of where I differ a little bit from Ali's methods. For those of you who are don't know, Ali is actually in the Al Ramal group on Facebook, the other admin in the group. But the purpose of this video is just to show you how to make the chart. So we have our four mothers. From here, I'm going to zoom in again if I can. Can I zoom in? Nope. Okay, I'm just going to do one of these numbers then. Nope, I'll just make do. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to create the daughters. Excuse me. We're going to create the daughters, and to create the daughters, we're going to look at the figure that the individual lines create. So this first line we have 1, so we're going to put a 1 dot here. 1 dot here. 2, we're going to put 2 dots here, and then 1 again. We're going to put a dot here. That's called puer again. So we got puer listed out. Then we have carcer with got 1 here, 2 here, 2 here, 1 here. Then we have tristitia, because it's starting to repeat. And then we have via. So basically we just created the exact same thing. That's what this did. It basically spewed out the same answer to the same question, the same figure, excuse me. You'll see what I'm talking about in a minute. It generated, I call it clone, so to speak. All right. Now I'm going to make what's called the nephews. And to make the nephews, you're going to add these two figures, these two figures, these two figures, and these two figures together. Now, addition here is a little different. Remember when I said in the beginning that everything boils down to binary, even and odd, right? So if I'm adding these two, I basically have 2 dots. That's even. So I'm going to put passive here for the fire line. Then here, I have 3 dots. So I'm going to put active here. Once again, we have even 4 here, so I'm going to put even. And we also have even here. So we have some even, we have a figure, the first nephew here. Not a pretty figure, this is Rubius, which translates to red, I believe. And it's a figure that tends to be on the rash side of the equation. Next, we have, I'm going to do the same thing over here with tristitia and via, these two figures here. First, we have odd, then we have odd, then we have odd, and then we have even. This is cauda draconis. That means something's ending, or you already know the answer to, or something is leaving. Next, we have even, odd, here, even again. Once again, this is going to just generate the exact same figure all over again. I wonder if this is doing this because I'm doing the reading on video. I'm almost positive at this point it's doing that because I'm doing the reading on video. Or, well, yeah, I'll experiment with that idea. And then again, we'll have Clara Draconis. Now, at this point, we have our mother's maid, our daughter's maid, and our nephews. Next, we're going to add this to create our witnesses. The witnesses represent, well, it depends on the question. It can represent person number 2, person number 3, not person number 2, number 3, but person number 1 and person number 2, if it's a question about a person. It can represent the present and the future, or the past and the future, or present, past and present. It depends, and you'll see in a minute why. So we're going to just do the same adding thing. We have for the fire line, we have 1 dot for the fire line. For the air line, we have 2 dots. For the water line, we have 3, so it's odd, so we're going to go back to 1. And then we have 4 at the end, so we got even again. And we're going to do the same thing. These are the exact same figures, so we're going to go with Amicio. Now, from here, we're going to make our final figure, which is called the judge. It basically represents the outcome of the question. So, if we look at this, we're going to add even, 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 even. It's even all around. And if you don't understand what I mean by that, on the fire line, we have even on the right witness, left witness, even on the right witness. So we're going to just go straight down. Here we got even on the left witness and right witness. We add this, we still got even, populous. And that is the basics of making a geomancy chart. In our next video, I will go about reading this the traditional way, and then I will do another chart to show you how I would go about reading it the way that I usually prefer. One way is easier than the other, but another way kind of leans more so towards my style of practice. So with that being said, I hope you found this helpful. If you did not, we're going to go through this again. And yeah, until then, I'll talk to you later. Have a good evening. And let me kind of wave bye. Bye.